Welcome back to the Small Unit Leadership Accelerator. In this episode, I will tell you the 10 tasks your training NCO should be doing for you today. If you're wanting to know more about how to lead at the platoon level, you're in the right place. Thanks for putting time into making yourself a better leader. The better you are at leading platoons, the better we all get as a Marine Corps. If I had my way, all platoon commanders would show up at their first unit qualified as a training officer. Since I can't have that, I'm going to help you build up your training NCO. During the last episode, I gave you a lot of information about platoon level training, what types of training platoon commanders are accountable for, and how to break up that work into chunks that can be delegated. I talked to you about becoming a learning organization by iterating through a 4-step learning cycle of performing, evaluating, planning, and training mission tasks faster than your adversary. Finally, I give you 4 reasons why your training NCO should, if at all possible, be a sergeant. Today, I will tell you 10 tasks your training NCO should be doing for you today. I will give you a set of roles, responsibilities, and expectations that you can give directly to your training NCO to make sure many of the platoon training functions can get done with minimal daily management by the platoon leadership team. Starting with job expectation number 1 for the training NCO. He or she needs to attend the Unit Readiness Planning Coordinator's course, or URPC, and achieve proficiency in the 12 2000 level events. This is the course where unit training management is taught. I highly recommend it for small unit leaders at all levels, plus platoon leadership, company leadership, and battalion training specific billets. The Unit Readiness Planning Coordinator, or URPC, training is semi-formal. On the video version of this episode, I'm displaying the training and readiness standards accomplished by this semi-formal course, and it's a pretty big list of competencies. There are teams around the Marine Corps who are certified to provide this training. Look for T3S detachments and mobile training teams to get training for you, your staff NCO, your training NCO, and as many small unit leaders as you can. Through that training, you will be equipped to have a systems approach to training, which includes evaluation and planning, aspects that too many junior leaders have not yet figured out. After becoming a training NCO by virtue of attending the URPC course, the second job expectation is to assume responsibility for ensuring that the platoon's training is thoroughly planned and coordinated. Make it your mission to outlearn the enemy according to MCDP 7. Job expectation number 3, understand the long-term mission of the platoon to identify mission-related training deficiencies. This is the primary work that can't be done by a training clerk or junior NCO. If you don't have a senior sergeant doing this, the platoon commander and staff NCOIC will probably need to. Job expectation number 4, the training NCO will need to read and understand, first and foremost, Marine Corps Order 1500.63 annual training requirements. Then continue on to learn the contents of Marine Corps Order Papa 3500.72 Alpha, Marine Corps Ground Training and Readiness, Marine Corps Order 1553.3 Alpha, Unit Training Management, MCRIP 3 TAC 0 Alpha, Unit Training Management Guide, and MCRIP 3 TAC 0 Bravo, How to Conduct Training. Also be familiar with the following Marine Corps programs. MCMAP, according to MCRIP 8 TAC 10 B.5, Body Composition, or BCP, and Military Appearance Program, or MAP, according to Marine Corps Order 6110.3 Alpha. PFT and CFT, according to Marine Corps Order 6100.13 Alpha, Marksmanship, according to Marine Corps Order 3574.2M, and Water Survival, according to Marine Corps Order 1500.52 Delta. Job expectation number 5. I've also added a recommendation with this billet description to require the training NCO to read Make It Stick by Brown, Rodinger, and McDaniel. As a former training officer and schoolhouse chief instructor and curriculum developer, I believe that Make It Stick is essential for training and educating our Marines in the 21st century. Anyone involved in training Marines, including all small unit leaders, should read or listen to a narration of this book. Also, you need to read or listen to MCDP 7, Learning. Job expectation number 6 is to create and maintain the platoon's quarterly training plan that addresses all of next quarter's training needs. Submit it to the company training staff no later than September 7th, December 7th, March 7th, and June 7th. Be prepared to submit it to the Battalion S3 and Maintenance Management Office, or MMO for short. There are 2 things to understand about this. First, the Unit S3 Training Office needs to supervise training across the unit and know when platoons are conducting training so they can find opportunities to add others to the events and know when they need to coordinate support for training, like transportation, ammunition, and MREs. The second thing to know is that the maintenance management offices across the Marine Corps are required to ensure that equipment operator and maintenance training events are conducted regularly. This applies to any unit which has equipment to operate and maintain. This may not be applicable to, let's say, a dispersing office, but the large majority of Marine units have significant amounts of equipment. The dates shown here give plenty of time for the 2 offices to review the training plans and provide corrections if needed before the start date of the plan. In other words, before the first day of each of the quarters, 1 October, 1 January, 1 April, and 1 July. Training NCO job expectation number 7 is to maintain the training binder, which contains all evolutions that result in individual or unit TNR standard accomplishment. Here's a story to go with this task. When I was stationed in Okinawa, my unit would deploy in small teams to exercises all over Asia. They'd be led by a lieutenant OIC and probably a gunny or staff sergeant. The company and squadron would plan and execute 10 deployed exercises per year. However, despite going on these deployments, individual Marines and their teams did not demonstrate mastery in their mission tasks. When you send Marines off on a deployment, they must either be independent operators or they need to be training to become one by the time they get back. Despite having the best expeditionary training opportunities in the world, the mission could not be reliably done with the small teams. We had to send large teams and hope for the best. That is not expeditionary, plus results were just mediocre. This is where training evaluation comes in. It was not in our DNA to train and evaluate during each deployed exercise. A few go-getters would have the initiative to become excellent at accomplishing their mission tasks. So many others would let themselves stay useless. In comes sergeant, staff NCO, and officer leadership, and the need to track training progress for Marines and teams. When you're planning for training, you must plan for evaluation of training as well. And when you've completed training, you need to look at the evaluations and judge individual and team readiness. Chart a course to team mastery. This is where the training binder comes in. Yes, this binder will be looked at during inspections, but more importantly, it's the final archive for your written field evaluations. When someone is going to pass off TNR standards in the field, you need to reread the exact standard, then judge whether the Marine or team has mastered that standard, and then write evaluations in the field. At the end of the field training, you'll bring these documents back and store them in a 3-ring binder to make it clean and simple. You'll also be uploading it to the MCTIM's training database to portray an accurate picture of the platoon's MOS-related training readiness. Here's what training completion evidence looks like to me. Remember, I'm a school-trained training officer, so if the rest of your leadership team isn't used to this, it might be more than they've been doing in the past. Judge for yourself the juice to squeeze ratio for planning, conducting, evaluating, and archiving training data to this level. But I'll tell you this, I don't think you'll be maximizing your mission potential if you aren't studying your training completion data and working continuously to make yourself better. So before going to the field, you'll want to start with an empty 6-part folder. If you don't know what that is, just ask literally anyone. First, somehow, someway, get a page in there that tells what the training is. Is it the radio platoon's mobility exercise of April 2024? Is it machine gun section and placement and concealment field exercise of May 2024? If it has a who, what, when, and where, that's all you truly need. Without doing any more work, you may have ready access to more information about the training. A 5Ws description, maybe your unit made a PowerPoint presentation or a quad chart to coordinate planning. Maybe there's a training LOI or 5-paragraph order. Maybe it's a single paragraph written in crayon. However you communicate it, give the reader/battalion S3/inspector a picture of what training has taken place. The second item in this training package is a list of the 1 to 5,000 level training and readiness standards expected to be accomplished in the upcoming exercise or training evolution. This list should have each training standard code and full title. The next item is an exercise or deployment roster where the names of the members of the platoon are highlighted. If you have it, put in supporting documentation, which may include lesson plans, instructor rating forms, etc., if applicable. Finally, the most important part is the Performance Evaluation Checklist, or PECL. The Performance Evaluation Checklist is a paper document generated by MCTIMs. It has blank lines next to each training standard you expect to accomplish. You print out a copy for each Marine that is going to demonstrate an individual training standard. If the standard is for a team event, squad event, or platoon event, you print out 1 copy for each participating team, squad, or 1 for the whole platoon level event. At the end of the training, when there's no more time for remediation, write down evaluations in the blank lines for each Marine and the collective team, squad, and platoon as a whole. This should be done in the field while the results are fresh. This part needs a senior NCO with technical expertise, character, and the maturity to grasp the payoff of frank and honest written evaluations. This is the feedback that the unit needs in order to improve. If this is pencil whipped, this work becomes a pointless paper drill with no return on investment. The brutal truth is that most training clerks are not equipped to do this, and many NCOs don't have the maturity to see the benefits of putting enough energy into it. This is why this function needs to be performed by a senior sergeant or staff NCO. Frank and honest evaluations of performance are needed to determine what training is required to get the people and the teams trained and ready to accomplish the mission in real-world ops. Only after deficiencies are identified can the training be added to the quarterly training plan, then scheduled, coordinated, and conducted. If the platoon commander or staff NCO does only one thing that I recommend in this whole episode, please let it be this. Make sure this happens. Read each line of the evaluation. If you can't read the story of how the Marine accomplished the task or what they need to improve on, turn it back and have the evaluator try again. Once the evaluations are complete, upload all of this documentation to MCTIM so the battalion and Big Marine Corps have an accurate picture of the platoon's MOS-related training readiness. Back to where we started with the training binder. Get a 3-ring binder with tabs. Each tab will be used to store records for a single training evolution or deployment, which resulted in individual or unit training and readiness standards accomplishment. This will be the archive for all of your paper field documents, including training event 5Ws, training and readiness tasks completed, roster of participants from the platoon, and performance evaluation checklists. In combination with your uploaded training history, this binder is certain to get an A+ in your next training readiness inspection. When it pays to be a winner, your battalion commander will hate to be the loser because you didn't show evidence of your individual and platoon training completion. Expectation number 9 is to ensure individual annual training is completed for each Marine in the platoon. There's a lot to unpack here. First, there's annual fiscal and calendar year leader-led classroom and self-paced training requirements from the Marine Corps Order 1500.63. This also includes MCMAP, PFT and CFT, marksmanship, and water survival training requirements as well. This also includes PME events like Lance Corporal Seminar, Corporal Scores, and Sergeant Scores. Finally, this may also include advanced MOS schools. Pulling these rosters from MCTIMs routinely and informing squads and sections in the platoon might be a task that can be further delegated to a training clerk. However, some junior Marines might not yet have the confidence to tell officers and staff NCOs that they're deficient in annual training. That part might be best performed by the training NCO with the aid of a staff NCO. Finally, training NCO job expectation number 10. But first, I need you to read this book, Make It Stick by Brown, Rodinger, and McDaniel. Not everyone here is going to eventually become an instructor in a Marine Corps formal school. However, according to the 13th Commandant, Lieutenant General John A. Lejeune, leaders are educators. As you lead, your relationship to those that follow you should be that of teacher and scholar, not superior and inferior or master and servant. Take a moment to think about the teachers you've had, decide which ones were most effective at getting new knowledge into your brain. This doesn't necessarily mean that they were your favorite teachers, just think about the ones that were most effective. This book will teach you how to be the most effective at teaching, and it all comes down to engaging your students' brains and getting them to engage back. I require all of my training NCOs, chiefs, and instructors to read this book, but it's a great resource to anyone who takes their subject matter expertise and trains up-and-coming Marines. If I had my way, this would be on the Commandant's reading list for all sergeants and above. Okay, as promised, training NCO job expectation number 10. Serve as a command physical training representative, or CPTR, for the platoon and seek to become trained as a force fitness instructor, or FFI. Ensure that each squad or section maintains enough CPTRs to perform all fitness test and body composition program requirements. While you're at it, consider whether this billet should also be a range safety officer or RSO, and don't forget to task this training NCO to get MCTIM's access, get certified as a command PT representative, get force fitness instructor certification, and get unit readiness planning coordinator training, and get range safety officer training if applicable. Now a word on whether this is a full-time job or a part-time job. I would say that this could be anywhere from a 1-day-per-week job to a full-time job depending on the size of the unit and the complexity of its training needs. Some platoons have a high enough demand for training, planning, coordination, and administration that a senior sergeant training NCO and a lance corporal training clerk would be appropriate. Another arrangement could be to have the junior staff NCO be accountable for the program and dedicate half or more of their time to it while having a junior training NCO or a clerk to assist. If your platoon has 30 to 40 Marines, I'd recommend the training NCO to be a sergeant, and the training NCO duties should take up around 50% of his or her time. The other half should be spent as a small unit leader accomplishing the unit's mission. If you have more sergeants and more troops, the training needs of the platoon would probably also grow in volume and complexity, which would need more of the sergeant's time. On the other hand, if there are 2 or fewer sergeants, perhaps you really should consider having a corporal fulfill the training NCO role and divide the team, squad, and platoon level task, performance, evaluation, and training planning work between yourself, the platoon sergeant, and the staff NCOIC. For units with complex training needs, I would recommend that a senior sergeant training NCO be fenced off by the platoon leadership team for 6 to 12 months. However, during that time, it would probably be okay for the training NCO to routinely spend a few days per week or a week or 2 per month out of the office. This way, the training NCO can still achieve the platoon commander's training evaluation and planning needs, but still personally obtain training, conduct training, and oversee training. This would require a clerk remaining in the office to help coordinate and report completion of those training events, which may affect individual promotions and unit training completion rates like Lance Corporal Seminar and Rifle Range, for example. As we close, remember, be 1% better every day. Read books, develop empathy, be physically tough. Work on your talents and make them superpowers. Use 360-degree feedback to identify your weaknesses and work on them relentlessly. And while you're at it, roast me in the comments. Give me feedback and make me better. I'm just here to help speed up the pace at which small unit leaders learn, lead from the front, and thrive. Hopefully, with your help, we can make this learning accessible to more new leaders and make our Marine Corps a better place to serve our nation. If you get value out of this Small Unit Leadership Accelerator, find someone else that can benefit from it as well and pass it along. Links to video and audio forms of this accelerator can be found in the show notes. In conclusion, during this segment, I gave you a lot of information about roles, responsibilities, and expectations that you can give directly to your training NCO to make sure many of the platoon training functions can get done with minimal daily management by the platoon leadership team. Coming up next, the Balanced Leadership Mental Model, where I'll tell you why you can't simply prioritize mission accomplishment over troop welfare when it comes to the day-to-day leadership of a platoon. There are many hard decisions out there that need a better leadership pattern to follow. Stay tuned for this and more billet expectations for the NCOs in a typical Marine Corps platoon to ensure that there is engaged leadership attention on all of the different functions needed to protect the unit's viability to deploy and operate in combat. Since you're serious about being a catalyst for your team's growth and success, I'll expect to see you there.